Once our main character was a powerful teacher who trained monsters, but as time passed, he grew weak and the respect he once commanded faded away. Until one day two of his former students returned, now transformed into beautiful girls, each determined to marry him. But to truly understand this story, we must go back to where it all began. Out in the middle of a wide, quiet ocean, there's an island that looks almost peaceful at first glance. The sky above it is bright, slightly hazy and calm, enough to make you forget how unusual this place really is. But inside a classroom on that island, things are far from ordinary. A group of students sit listening to a lecture about advanced magic, and among them is a small creature with multiple limbs, something closer to an octopus than a human. While the teacher explains a complicated spell, the creature quietly writes down a personal wish, to one day become human. That small moment turns into a light-hearted conversation, when other students jokingly admit their own dreams, like marrying their teacher someday. The teacher Washio doesn't react the way you might expect. Instead, he notices the creature's expression and asks what it truly wants. The creature hesitates, clearly bothered by its own appearance, wondering if its form makes others uncomfortable. Washio doesn't brush it off or laugh. He gently reassures it, placing a hand on its head, and making it clear that there's nothing wrong with how it looks. For a brief moment the classroom feels warm and safe, and the creature holds on to that feeling. Later, far from that calm environment, the tone shifts. The academy itself is massive and prestigious, filled with students and teachers moving through its halls. After classes end, people start heading home, chatting casually until a small incident interrupts the flow. A young girl bumps into Washio in the hallway. He apologizes immediately, but instead of brushing it off, she reacts with visible disgust and runs away, complaining about how he smells. Washio is left standing there and a bit hurt, muttering to himself that he isn't nearly as bad as people say. He even checks his clothes, trying to reassure himself that he's not as unpleasant as others think. That awkward moment doesn't last long, because something even stranger happens. A girl he's never seen before appears in the hallway, carrying a large suitcase. She stands out immediately. Washio freezes, unsure how to react, especially when she suddenly steps forward and hugs him tightly. Without warning, the situation quickly turns uncomfortable, as other students start whispering and judging him. From their perspective it looks inappropriate, and Washio panics, trying to explain himself while asking her to let go. The girl, however, seems completely unfazed. She casually asks for directions to the head teacher's office, as if nothing strange just happened. When he tells her where to go, she kneels down and opens her suitcase right there in the hallway, confidently saying her ID should be inside. Moments later she realizes it's missing. She had sent the wrong luggage to the dorms. Her confidence disappears, instantly replaced by frustration and panic. Ashio, despite everything, doesn't get annoyed. He crouches down and calmly explains that rushing leads to mistakes, and that problems like this can be fixed if she stays calm. He even pats her head, offering reassurance, in a way that feels more like a parent than a teacher. The girl goes quiet, clearly affected by his words, repeating them to herself as if trying to remember them. For her, this small interaction means more than it should. As Washio walks away, he doesn't think much of it. To him, it's just another strange encounter in an already exhausting day. But the girl watches him leave, her expression filled with curiosity, almost like she expected something more from that moment. Back in the staff room, Washio's situation doesn't improve. While other teachers relax and chat about going out, he's stuck dealing with more work. One of his colleagues, an elf named Limno, approaches him with a stack of additional tasks, and an attitude that makes it clear he looks down on him. Limno talks about his own achievements, status and his success, all while suddenly mocking Washio for being beneath him. Washio responds politely, but it's obvious he's just enduring it rather than engaging. By the time the day ends, Washio is completely drained. He walks through the city at night, passing by places filled with laughter and food, but he doesn't stop. He can't afford to. When he finally gets home, his elderly housekeeper greets him and gives him some leftover food. She casually suggests he should get married, so someone can take care of him properly. He jokes it off, saying someone like him doesn't have those kinds of chances. Once he's alone though, that light tone disappears. His room is messy, cluttered, and reflects the state of his life. He eats his simple meal in silence, lying on his bed and staring at the ceiling. There's no energy left in him, just routine. Even when he goes to wash up, his thoughts drift back to something much heavier. His past years ago. His life was completely different. He wasn't just a struggling teacher. He had been someone important, someone brought into another world as a hero. He remembers the battles, the destruction, and most clearly a small creature he tried to protect. That memory is vivid, especially the moment it was taken away from him. He recalls seeing it again later, changed into something unnatural, trapped in a facility that failure stayed with. He snaps out of it shaken, realizing how far he's fallen from who he used to be. Now he's just another low-ranked professor barely getting by. Standing outside under the night sky, he accepts that reality, even trying to convince himself that it's enough. The next morning starts like any other with more comments from Limno about his appearance and more reminders of where he stands. But then something unexpected happened. The staff are informed that a new transfer student is arriving. A monster girl. Most teachers react with excitement or curiosity, but Washio doesn't know much about them. Limno explains in a condescending tone that monster girls are powerful, intelligent, and highly valued by the kingdom. Then the new student entered. It's the same girl from the hallway. She introduces herself confidently as Claudia, a member of the Kraken species, immediately fills with attention. But Washio isn't focused on her status or appearance. He's trying to process the fact that she chose him as her teacher. Before anyone can question it, she walks straight up to him and greets him, like they've known each other for years. Then without hesitation, her tentacles wrap around him in another tight hug. This time it's not just surprising, it's overwhelming. Washio struggles to understand what's happening, till fragments of his past start connecting. The small creature he once protected, the one he lost, it was her. Claudia confirms it in a quiet, familiar tone, reminding him of the moment he tried to save for her. That moment changed everything for him. It was something he had buried under years of regret. Now they're standing face to face again, but everything is different. From that point on, his life becomes even more chaotic. Claudia sticks close to him, even going as far as dragging him to school at high speed. When he's about to be late, she openly declares that she'll be with him every day, completely unconcerned about how others see it. Washio, on the other hand, can barely keep up with how quickly things are changing. At first it almost feels like things might settle into a strange, but manageable routine, but that doesn't last long. When Washio tries to talk to Claudia about her future, he brings up the path that's already been decided for her. As a monster girl, she's expected to serve the kingdom in a high-ranking position. It's not really presented as a choice. Claudia already knows this, and it clearly bothers her. She asks him directly if she has to follow what everyone expects. It's a simple question, but Washio hesitates. Instead of giving her a clear answer, he avoids it. He downplays his own ability to give advice, and tells her not to worry too much. It's not what she was hoping to hear. For someone who looked up to him for so long, that response feels. By lunchtime, the tension is still there. Washio is eating a very small meal, which Claudia immediately notices. She gets concerned, hugging him again and insisting he should take better care of himself. Then she proudly shows him a form she filled out, clearly excited about it. Before he can respond properly, Limno appears without any warning. He tears the document in half. His reaction is harsh and direct. He openly criticizes both Claudia and Washio, saying her choice is a waste, and that someone of her level should be guided by a top-ranked professor, not someone like him. He mocks the idea that she would choose a normal, quiet life over a prestigious future. Claudia is visibly shaken, but before Washio can fully respond, she acts. One of her tentacles lashes out and strikes Limno. The room goes silent as her presence shifts completely. Same girl who was cheerful and excited just moments ago, now stands firm, her tentacles rising around her like a barrier, making it clear she won't tolerate anyone disrespecting her choice, or her teacher. Claudia doesn't hesitate. She steps forward and tells Limno to leave her teacher alone, her voice steady but strong enough to silence the entire room. There's no trace of doubt in her expression now. She points directly at Washio and says, without holding anything back, that he's the one who supported her from the very beginning. For a moment people don't understand what she means, but she continues anyway, bringing up something from long before anyone else in that room even knew her. She talks about a time when she hated herself, and she thought the only way to be accepted was to become something else entirely. Back then she was just a small, fragile creature unsure of her place in the world. And the one person who didn't reject her was Washio. He didn't try to change her or tell her to be something she wasn't. Instead, he gave her a simple idea: to hold on, to understand who you are and build from that. As she explains it, the room slowly quiets down. Even Washio is caught off guard, hearing his own words repeated back to him after so many years. He remembers that moment clearly now. The small creature looking up at him, scared and uncertain, asking if it could ever become something better. And instead of encouraging that wish, he told it to stop chasing the idea of becoming human, and to focus on what it already was, to accept its nature, improve it, and find its own way forward. At the time it was just advice, something he said without thinking too deeply about it, but for her it became the foundation of everything. Claudia explains that she followed those words. Instead of trying to change herself, she learned how to use her abilities properly. She trained, adapted, and grew stronger in her own way. And because of that, she was able to reach where she is now, standing there confident and proud. She makes it clear that her choice isn't random or emotional. It's based on the person who helped her find her direction. In the first place, Limno tries to respond, but he doesn't have anything meaningful to say. This situation has already shifted. The students who were watching start whispering among themselves, and this time their opinions are different. Instead of siding with him, they begin questioning his behavior. Some even point out that Washio, despite his appearance and low rank, treats people better. That alone is enough to make Limno's expression twist with frustration. He tries to hold his composure, but it doesn't last. The pressure builds up, and in front of everyone he completely loses control. His voice cracks, his confidence breaks, and to everyone's surprise, he starts tearing up. It's not what anyone expected from someone who always acted superior. Unable to handle the humiliation, he storms out of the room, shouting something about getting revenge, before disappearing down the hallway. For a moment no one says anything. The entire situation ends so abruptly that it takes time to process what just happened. Claudia, however, doesn't dwell on it. She simply turns back to Washio and suggests they go get lunch, as if everything has already been settled. As they walk through the halls, the tension fades. Claudia looks more relaxed now, running her hand along one of her tentacles. While talking about her journey, she mentions that she wants to become a teacher someday. Just like him, it's not said casually. She means it. Hearing that, Washio pauses for a moment, realizing how much impact his role actually has. Somewhere along the way he had started seeing teaching as just a job, something routine and tiring. But now hearing her say that, he remembers why he chose this path in the first place. For the first time in a while, he feels genuinely satisfied with what he does. That calm moment doesn't last long. As they approach the cafeteria, reality hits again when Washio awkwardly admits he doesn't have enough money for a proper meal. Claudia looks at him in disbelief, clearly not expecting that from a teacher. Even so, she doesn't make a big deal out of it and stays by his side. Later on during class, things shift back into a more normal routine, at least on the surface. Washio introduces Claudia's abilities to the students, explaining what she can do. Instead of just talking about it, she demonstrates it directly. With almost no effort, she destroys a large rock, showing just how powerful she actually is. The class reacts exactly how you'd expect: shock, excitement, and a bit of fear. Even without saying it out loud, it becomes obvious that she's far beyond an average student. Despite everything that happened earlier, Washio doesn't act differently toward her. He treats her like any other student, pointing out both her strengths and how they can be used effectively. That approach seems small, but it's exactly what she respects about Washio. After class, their interaction becomes more casual again. Claudia teases him a bit, getting closer than necessary just to see how he reacts. At one point she even tries to act seductive, though it comes across more playful than serious. Washio, completely unprepared for that, panics and immediately tries to change the subject. He redirects the conversation back to class, pretending nothing happened. To help him out, she casually uses her abilities again, stretching her tentacles to reach places that would normally be difficult. Washio takes note of it, commenting on how useful that kind of flexibility is. He realizes that her abilities aren't just about power, they have practical applications too. Claudia agrees, explaining that she's even used them for work before. including something as unexpected as giving massage. Before he can react properly, she demonstrates one of her tentacles wraps around him, and what starts as a simple example turns into something intense, enough to make him shout it's overwhelming but not painful. When it ends, he's left confused, slightly embarrassed and unsure how to respond, while she watches proudly satisfied with the result. That strange, but harmless interaction becomes just another part of their dynamic. Time passes and eventually Washio gets a rare day off. He steps outside enjoying the break more than he probably should. For once he doesn't have to worry about classes, paperwork or expectations, but even then his body reminds him of his age. His back starts to ache as he walks through town, slowing him down. That's when someone approaches him again. Woman wearing a large hat places a hand on his shoulder. The sudden contact startles him and he reacts immediately. Asking who she is, the woman greets him calmly, saying it's been a long time. But unlike Claudia, he doesn't recognize her at all. She doesn't seem bothered by that. Instead, she laughs lightly and explains that her appearance has changed a lot. To help him remember, she gives him a subtle hint, lifting part of her dress just enough to reveal something familiar. Even then it takes him a moment to process. Eventually they end up sitting together in a small restaurant. The place is simple, maybe even a bit run down, but she doesn't care. She points out its flaws openly, with which only makes Washio more nervous, as he tries to apologize on her behalf. Once the food arrives though, her attitude shifts completely. She focuses entirely on eating, enjoying every bite like it's something special. Watching her, Washio starts to remember. She used to be a small spider-like creature in his class, quiet and hidden away most of the time. Now she's completely different, confident, expressive and able to stand out anywhere. She introduces herself properly as Arya, making it clear she's not the same as she used to be. They talk while eating, and the conversation naturally shifts to what he does now. When he tells her he teaches biology, she seems surprised. It's not what she expected from someone like him. He admits that things have changed over the years, and his tone suggests there's more behind that statement. Even so, she listens carefully, clearly interested in everything he says. After finishing their meal, they step outside. Washio laughs a bit, worried about how much money he just spent, but Arya doesn't seem concerned at all. A carriage arrives to pick her up, revealing that she's now living a completely different kind of life. Before leaving, she looks back at him for a moment, as if wondering whether he truly remembers her or not. That quiet moment doesn't last. Not long after, something serious happens. Nearby church catches fire and the situation quickly turns chaotic. Flames spread fast and people gather outside in panic. Among the noise, someone shouts that a child is still trapped inside. Without hesitation, Arya steps forward. Even with people warning her not to, she runs straight into the burning building. Inside, the air is thick with smoke and visibility is low. She moves carefully, searching through the collapsing structure until she hears something. A faint cough. Following the sound, she finds the child pinned under debris. Barely conscious, she doesn't waste time lifting the debris. With her strength, she pulls the child free and holds him close, shielding him from the heat. But escaping isn't simple. The fire is spreading, and using her usual abilities could make things worse. For a moment she hesitates, then everything changes. A massive surge of water suddenly floods the area, overwhelming the fire almost instantly. The flames that seemed uncontrollable just seconds ago are gone, replaced by a calm, controlled flow of magic. Arya looks up, already knowing who it is: Washio. He stands outside, calmly finishing the spell as if it wasn't anything unusual. The scale of it, though, tells a different story. The magic he used isn't something an average teacher could perform. It's on an entirely different level. In that moment, the truth becomes clear. The quiet, overlooked professor is actually one of the strongest magic users in the kingdom, someone once known by a title people haven't mentioned in years. Despite that, he doesn't make a big deal out of it. He brushes it off, saying he's just a teacher. Now the fire is gone, the building is safe, and the child is rescued. As everything settles, Arya watches him with a mix of admiration and understanding. Even after all this time, he hasn't really changed. At his core, he still uses his power the same way he always did. Not for recognition, but to help when it matters for someone like her. That's exactly why she never forgot him. Back in the present, Arya's expression softens as she remembers that moment from long ago. When she was still small and unsure of herself, she once asked Washio why he bothered being kind to creatures like her. He didn't understand why he would offer something as simple as flowers, or take the time to teach those who never even asked for help. At the time his answer seemed almost too simple. He told her that the meaning of life, at least for him, was found in giving. Not in grand gestures or recognition, but in small things, helping someone, making them smile or easing their worries. He believed that if you focused on making others happy, eventually you'd find your own happiness in the process. That idea stayed with her. Even now, standing in the academy as a completely different person, she carries those words with her. She admits that becoming a teacher wasn't just a random goal. It was something she chose, because she wanted to follow the same path he showed her. For Washio, hearing that is enough to remind him again that his actions, even the small ones, have had lasting effects. Life at the academy continues, but things feel slightly different now. News about the recent fire spreads quickly, and like most rumors, the details get twisted along the way. Some students claim Arya was the one who saved the church, while others exaggerate the story even further. Arya doesn't correct them immediately, but when she's with Claudia and Washio, she makes it clear that he was the one who truly handled the situation. Claudia listens with interest, clearly disappointed she didn't get to see it herself. Arya teases Washio a bit, joking about how he used to struggle with water magic in the past, which only makes the situation feel more casual, despite what actually happened. When Washio approaches them, he notices they're talking about the past again, and for once he doesn't try to avoid it. Instead, he looks at both of them with quiet satisfaction, seeing how well they're getting along. Then Arya surprises him by thanking him properly. She even hands him a small, carefully wrapped gift. It's not something expensive, but it's meaningful when he opens it. His reaction is immediate. He's genuinely happy, not because of the item itself, but because of what it represents. Arya repeats his own words to him again, about how giving is what gives life meaning. This time, though, feels different. It's no longer just advice. It's something she truly believes. Claudia watches this exchange from the side, clearly not pleased. She doesn't interrupt, but her expression says enough. Even so, Arya finishes what she started by adjusting Washio's tie herself, making sure it fits properly. The moment becomes slightly awkward as other students notice, but for Arya it's just a natural way of showing appreciation. Later on, when Washio reviews her future plans, he sees that she's aiming to join the Magic Guard. He doesn't question her choice. Instead, he acknowledges her ability and promises to support her however he can. That's all she needs to hear. Without hesitation, she hugs him again, catching him off guard like before. Back in the staff room, things return to normal. On the surface, teachers talk about upcoming competitions, factions and rankings. Limno, despite what happened earlier, continues acting like his group is still the strongest, boasting about their undefeated record. Washio listens but doesn't get involved. He's not interested in competing or proving anything. His focus stays on his students. Meanwhile, outside in the courtyard, Claudia and Arya talk about their future. The idea of joining the Magic Guard comes up again, but Arya shifts the conversation towards something else. She asks Claudia what she actually wants to do, not what others expect from her. Claudia answers honestly she wants to teach not just humans, but monsters too. Arya immediately supports the idea, and for a moment they're both on the same page. That moment doesn't last long. A group of older students approaches them, led by a confident second year named Frederick. He introduces himself, and explains that he's part of an elite faction connected to Limno. According to him, joining their group would give them better training, more power and a higher status within the academy. He presents it like an opportunity they shouldn't refuse. But Claudia doesn't even think about it. She rejects the offer immediately without softening her response. Arya backs her up, explaining that they're not interested in having someone else decide their path. For them, Frederick isn't used to being refused, especially not like this. He tries again, pushing harder, even suggesting alternatives. But both of them stay firm. When words don't work, he changes his approach. He challenges them to a duel. Without waiting for their agreement, he starts casting a large wave of water forms and rushes toward them, clearly meant to overwhelm them from the start. Claudia doesn't panic. She simply steps forward and cuts through the attack with her tentacles, stopping it completely. The difference in power is obvious, but Frederick doesn't back down. Instead, he summons something else from his shadow, massive wolf-like creature begins to emerge. Its size alone is enough to intimidate most people watching. At the same time elsewhere in the academy, Limno is explaining how this kind of magic works, talking about how the size of a summoned creature reflects the user's power. It's a clear attempt to reinforce his own ideology. Back in the courtyard, Frederick stands beside his summon. Confident again, he believes this proves his superiority. Aerie studies the creature carefully, points out that it's not as strong as it looks, based on its size and presence. She estimates it's not even at the top level. He claims that only pushes him further. He begins another spell, this time creating a massive ice weapon above them. It forms quickly, crashes down with force. But once again Claudia handles it without much trouble. The attack breaks apart before it can do any real damage. Even after all that, Frederick still acts like he's in control. He talks about technique, about how perfect casting can multiply power, and tries one last time to convince them to join him. But at this point both Claudia and Arya have already decided. They refuse again, this time it's final. Frederick's tone changes, he starts mocking their decision, then shifts his focus to Washio. He calls him useless, boring, and unworthy of being their teacher. Even suggests that they only follow him because they owe him something from the past, twisting the situation into something negative. That's where things cross the line. The atmosphere changes instantly. The casual tension from before disappears, replaced by something much heavier. Arya's expression hardens. Claudia's reaction is even more direct. Her tentacles rise and her anger becomes impossible to ignore. The ground shakes slightly as her power starts to show. Students nearby step back, realizing this isn't just a simple argument anymore. Frederick, who was confident just moments ago, suddenly looks unsure. Arya steps forward as well, her presence shifting in a different way. And behind her a massive skeletal figure begins to form, something far more intimidating than Frederick's summon. She doesn't attack immediately. Instead she demands something simple, an apology, not for themselves, but for what he said about their teacher. At that moment the balance of power is completely clear, and for the first time Frederick understands that he pushed too far. The dust settled on a scene of absolute devastation, leaving the arrogant senior paralyzed as he finally grasped the true, terrifying scale of monster girl power. Thick smoke billowed from the ruins of a tower, obliterated in the 9th period's chaotic, magical confrontation. Onlookers stared in stunned silence at Claudia's massive, shimmering tentacles while Arya's spider legs twitched menacingly, a creepy yet awe-inspiring sight. Frederick stood frozen, sweat pouring down his face. Looming over the terrified senior, Arya and Claudia demanded an immediate apology for the insults he'd hurled at their beloved teacher. With a menacing crack, Arya leaned in. Her eyes burning, she repeated her demand, but the broken senior could only tremble, unable to form a coherent response. Suddenly Wyo and Limno-sensei burst onto the scene. Limno stared in disbelief at the destroyed tower, before his gaze snapped to the students, searching for the culprit. He confronted the girls directly, demanding a confession. Arya criticized his habit of jumping to conclusions, and Claudia fired back, pointing a finger at Frederick, arguing that he had started it, and the tension shattered. Frederick knelt and confessed his love for Claudia. Blushing profusely, he praised her explosive magic, declaring monster girls were incredible. He marveled that she'd achieved such power despite her limiting ring. Surrounded by imaginary roses, he declared he'd found true love and proposed on the spot. Claudia could only stare in horror. Arya fiercely rejected the idea, while Limno coldly demanded an official apology letter. As the group moved through the stone corridors, Limno smirked at Wyo, mocking his inability to maintain order. Wyo smiled awkwardly, insisting the girls must have had a good reason. Then a firm hand clamped onto Wyo's shoulder. Limno leaned in with a dark gaze, offering to take charge of the monster girls himself. They arrived at a quiet office to write their apologies. Frederick finished first with a smug grin, his hollow formal words dripping with fake respect. He mentioned his usual supervisor covered for him, disgusting the girls, excusing himself with a fake bow. He paused near Claudia, vowing to save her from Wyo's brainwashing one day. Ignoring her angry rejection, he turned to Arya and cruelly declared he could never love a spider. He arrogantly invited them to join his elite faction, then waved a cheerful goodbye. I watched him go with a warm smile, commenting on the energy of youth. The girls glared at him, asking if he was blind to the senior's arrogance. Ignoring them, Wyatt mused that Frederick and Claudia actually made a good-looking pair. Suddenly Claudia closed the distance, leaving the teacher frozen. She pouted looking into his eyes, and confessed she hated that insensitive side of him. As compensation, she demanded they go on a date immediately after his classes. Arya paused her writing, watching silently. Later, Wayo strictly forbade them from using powerful magic outside of class, but Claudia just beamed, whispering a reminder about their date before heading off. That evening the setting sun cast a warm light on the town square. Inside a boutique, Claudia modeled a charming dress as shop assistants clapped, calling her cute. Wayo stood frozen, shocked by her transformation. She looked up with shimmering eyes, waiting for his honest opinion. Arya then modeled an elegant outfit, and Wayo warmly complimented them both. Suddenly Claudia leaned in, mischievously, holding up another dress and asking which color suited her best. The overwhelmed professor nervously claimed, "Any choice would be wonderful." Claudia pouted at his indecision. The mood shifted when the staggering price of 93,000 ryans was revealed. Wayo sweated profusely, desperately asking about installment plans, while the girls watched his struggle with judgment. As they walked, Claudia asked Azaria for coming along with them. Azaria said that "I'd like to go on date with Professor Washio too." She flashed a dark and competitive smile, saying that she won't left the two of them alone. The people around them gossiped that Washio is the teacher of the monster girls, and questioned that can an E-level teacher really handle a level. Tension crackled between the two students, locking eyes in a silent battle for their teacher's attention. Claudia excitedly dragged him to a crepe shop. Arya offered Wayo a bite of her strawberry crepe, leaving Claudia fuming in the background. Feeling stuffed, Wayo tried to decline more food, when a drunken old man suddenly grabbed his shoulder. He was a former student, and he loudly asked what Wayo was doing in town. He mentioned seeing Arya at a tavern, causing her to pout. The man pushed Wayo to seek a promotion. Now that he had such impressive students, the girls wondered if their humble teacher felt any jealousy toward his colleagues. A shadow fell over Wayo's face. He laughed it off, claiming a simple life was perfect, noticing how everyone underestimated their savior. The monster girls exchanged a look. A plan brewing. Claudia struck a pose, revealing a bold proposal to make their teacher shine. Arya caught on with a knowing smirk. They suddenly canceled the date and bolted away, leaving a bewildered Wayo alone in the street. The old man seized the opportunity and dragged him to a tavern for drinks. The next morning Wyatt ate a meager lunch in the dining hall, pondering the strange absence of both Arya and Claudia. A silhouette loomed behind him. Arya appeared wearing glasses, and presented a formal document for him to sign. Proudly she declared her intent to establish the Wayo faction, to demonstrate his true greatness. Wayo questioned how an I-ranked mage could oversee a faction. Pushing up her glasses she countered with a confident smirk. He displayed a list of fulfilled requirements, revealing that Wayo had actually been promoted to Deering. Stunned after 20 years of stagnation, he learned she had threatened to quit the school. To force the director's hand, she urged him to sign. A somber expression crossed Wayo's face. He asked if it wouldn't be better to avoid creating a troublesome faction. He suggested she join the Rimnoa faction instead. Arya pointed out their shared hatred for Limnoa, but Wayo surprisingly defended the elf, calling him an exceptional teacher. Arya's eyes welded with tears. Upset by his constant self-deprecation, she lamented how he accepted an unfair rank, while being a far more wonderful teacher. Tears streamed down her face, as she confessed her frustration with his lack of ambition. Stunned, she demanded he sign the document. Instead of offering another tired apology, memories of a small spider amidst ruins flickered in his mind. His eyes reflected profound sadness, the weight of a decade of regret finally catching up. Just as he prepared to speak, a loud voice interrupted. Claudia sprinted in, waving an urgent letter from his landlord. His face lost all color. It was an eviction notice demanding he leave by tomorrow. Realizing he might be homeless at nearly 50, the broken professor buried his face in his hands. He looked up with a hollow, dead gaze. Arya leaned in, declaring their desire to study under him regardless of his situation. She bowed deeply, showing sincere commitment. Moved, a small, resolute smile touched his lips. He took the pen and began to sign, reflecting on the pay raise and free lodging. An incredible opportunity. Weariness showed in his eyes as he finished. Suddenly, Arya and Claudia peered at the document and screamed in frustration. Their teacher had accidentally misspelled his own name as Watsuo. Later in the director's office, Arya was determined to finalize the faction. To her absolute shock, the mustached elf director bluntly refused. Claudia angrily confronted him with her tentacles, demanding to know why the director calmly revealed that the Raising Ring research group already existed, shocking them both. Wayo looked flustered as Arya scolded him for not mentioning it earlier. Leaving the office in disappointment, Arya wondered what their next move was. Realizing his desperate housing situation, Wyatt worried he'd end up homeless. He concluded that begging his landlord was his only option. A set of stylish boots clicked against the stone floor. Frederick reappeared with a flamboyant greeting for his honey, leaving them all speechless. He delivered a message from Limno Essence. The destroyed tower housed the Rimno faction's magic reactor. To make up for its destruction, they were instructed to head to the crumbling ghost tower and find a replacement. He adds that real ghosts are rumored to appear in the old building, which terrifies Claudia. Frederick leans in too close, asking if he scared her, completely ignoring her discomfort. Why? Yo trembles as the weight of his mounting problems finally breaks his spirit. Arya claps her hands excitedly, suggesting they depart immediately. Claudia expresses guilt about the tower she destroyed, but Arya offers a sly smile, reminding the professor they're all in this together now. Standing before the crumbling, ominous structure, Wayo admits his deep reluctance to enter. Shrouded in darkness, the trio begins their search far above. Frederick reports his progress to Limnoa, confirming he successfully guided his targets into the trap. Blushing with excitement, the senior hopes the plan will finally lead Claudia into their elite faction. Limnoa envisions his perfect rescue, imagining himself saving the girls from a terrifying ghost encounter. He believes the scheme will break Wayo's supposed brainwashing. The two conspirators share a determined look. Limnoa proudly recites the first principle of his faction: superior intelligence. Frederick follows with the second: wealth. Together they loudly proclaim pride as the final principle. While striking a dramatic pose, they share a sinister laugh, eagerly anticipating the girls' arrival inside the tower. Claudia trembles with anxiety, calling out to her professor. Wyatt tries to soothe her nerves. Suddenly she collapses against him, admitting she can't endure the terrifying atmosphere. She clings tightly to his side. Paralyzed by the contact, Wayo's mind wanders, noting the unexpected softness of her embrace. He panics as she presses closer, insisting physical contact with him is fine. They continue their search through the gloom. Massive cracks and falling debris highlight the tower's instability. Fear takes hold as they question if they should simply wait outside. Claudia's eyes widen in absolute terror as she senses an ominous presence. Sudden noise startles them as a door begins to creak open. Dark eyes glow from the void as a massive shadowy spirit materializes, letting out a terrifying roar. Screaming in unison, Wyatt and Claudia sprint away as the entity chases them. Left behind, Arya calls out to her friends while watching them vanish. During the frantic escape, a heavy boot lands on a loose floorboard, triggering a hidden mechanism. The floor instantly gives way, sending them tumbling into a dark abyss. They plummet through the air. Completely powerless, Arya watches helplessly from the edge as the trapdoor above them slams shut with an ominous thud. Following a rough landing, Wayo and Claudia find themselves entangled on the floor. Claudia begins to blush and breathe heavily. In the dim light, she confesses her primal monster instincts are starting to take over. Terrified, Wyatt begs her to stay calm. The physical proximity intensifies as they struggle in the shadows. With a bold smile, she declares they are destined to be married one day. Wayo screams in absolute shock. She leans in closer, her intentions becoming undeniably clear. Their bodies press against each other as the atmosphere grows heavy with tension. A single moment of frozen silence passes. Suddenly a sharp cracking sound echoes through the chamber. As the rear wall splinters, they are thrown forward as massive stonework collapses around them. Dust clouds fill the air while Wayo winces from the impact. Recovering amidst the rubble, he checks if his student is unharmed. They discover a secret chamber containing a mysterious, advanced technological device. Inside a large glass capsule, silent young girl remains suspended in magical stasis, her eyes closed, appearing peaceful despite her unsettling predicament. Wyatt questions her humanity as he processes the shocking sight. A terrifying warning appears, declaring the room will explode in exactly 60 seconds. Panic sets in as the timer descends, and they desperately search for an exit. The door remains stubbornly shut while the mechanical voice repeats. It's the final warning in a desperate search for a solution. Wyo spots an old instruction manual. They hover over the ancient text, searching for clues to deactivate the deadly countdown. Wyo's eyes widen in amazement as he deciphers the true nature of the device. An elaborate ancient magic book lies open, revealing forbidden knowledge and complex spells. He promises to explain later, focusing all his energy on stopping the lethal process. With only 46 seconds remaining, he slowly approaches the glowing capsule. Standing before the grand doorway, Wyatt's thoughts drift toward powerful, dark figures of his forgotten past. In a fleeting vision, a horned demon with a blackened mark on its chest looms through the shadows. A mechanical voice announces that the stasis capsule's activity is restarting. Claudia gasps in relief upon realizing the deadly countdown has officially halted. Wyo closes his eyes and exhales deeply, his body trembling from the massive drain on his inner magical reserves. He admits the ritual exhausted him, explaining he merely followed the instructions in the mysterious book. Claudia cheers for the legendary Golden Eagle, though Wyo begs her to retire that 20-year-old title. Beaming with pride, she declares her devotion as his student, leaving him flustered by her intense affectionate gaze. Pivoting the conversation, Claudia points to the open book and asks about its true nature. He identifies it as an ancient artifact containing powerful, long-lost spells. Despite recognizing a few words, full comprehension will require professional language analysis. His expression shifts to curiosity upon discovering unexpected handwritten notes in the margins. Enthusiastically, Claudia suggests using the mysterious book as the official study object for their budding Wyo faction. Steam rises as the figure within the pod suddenly sits up, catching them both off guard. Paralyzed by shock, they stare at the girl who is finally awakened. She slowly turns her head, her clear eyes focusing on them. For the first time, the girl speaks, asking for her master. A stunned Wyatt watches her in absolute breathless silence. She acknowledges the situation with a simple "I see." Her eyes calm and steady, she steps out from the glass capsule. Wyo gazes at a scrap of paper with deep sorrow, the weight of the past clearly visible. The girl recognizes the handwriting as her master's. Creating a heavy silence, she recites her master's final wish: to pass his legacy and the girl herself to a new master. Whispering the word master, she sinks into a melancholy state. Wyo offers to take her with them, but she declines while promising to unlock the exit. Believing her existence is tied only to her master, she prepares to return to deep stasis. Wyo and Claudia stand in somber silence, watching the lonely figure return to her icy slumber. Claudia asks if he truly wants to let her go, sensing his hidden emotions. Despite her plea about his vast magic, he insists he cannot take on such heavy responsibility. Walking toward the exit, he claims he is merely a simple biology teacher, with no desire for power. Claudia watches him depart with shimmering eyes, heartbroken by his refusal to act as the girl's savior. Their footsteps echo through the dark chamber. As they leave the glowing capsule behind, the professor's expression remains pained, his mind clearly troubled. The master's final request to continue research alongside the girl lingers in the heavy, silent air. Claudia asks one last time if he is truly sure about his heartless decision. Claudia earnestly asks if he intends to leave the lonely girl behind. As the silent automaton closes her eyes, returning to her cold, motionless state, Wyo continues his retreat, his footsteps echoing against the stone walls. But his mind drifts back to the letter's words about finding a talented youth with exceptional power. The grimoire is one of 7 ancient artifacts, guarded by the sleeping automaton. The previous master confesses his magic grew too weak to maintain the girl. Or the legendary book. He reminisces about the brilliant days of research they shared. Before his time ended, the note begs the next master to add new pages. Alongside the devoted girl, a pained look crosses Wyo's face as he contemplates the significant mission he is rejecting. He decides, such powerful artifacts are too much for a humble biology teacher. Claudia watches his departure with pure heartbreak and growing despair. She remains at the bottom of the stairs, staring at the man she once considered a hero. Wyatt begins to ascend toward the exit, determined to leave the girl's fate. In the shadows, the automaton rests in stillness, her face a mask of peaceful yet tragic mechanical indifference. Claudia's expression turns desperate as she prepares to make one final, heartfelt plea. She clenches her jaw, her inner turmoil manifesting as she searches for the right words. Running through the dark, Claudia begs Wyo to become the girl's master and save her from sleep. Though he feels it's a shame she must sleep, he insists he lacks the power to help. Claudia grips his hands desperately, pleading with him to extend his help once more to the lonely girl. The professor wavers under her intense gaze, while she reminds him of his past as their reliable savior. Wyatt hesitates, his voice trailing off as he struggles with the heavy decision. Claudia insists that to her, he remains the same kind and dependable man, who always helps those in need. She kneels before him, reaffirming her absolute faith in the man she proudly calls her beloved sensei. Memories of his past guidance surface as she reflects on how his words once helped her accept herself. Her tentacles twitch with emotion, while she continues her heartfelt speech. Arya watches the intense scene, recalling her own lessons, as Wyo remains visibly shaken by their support. Internally, the professor laments his pathetic nature, for needing a student to push him into making decisions. Finally reaching a breakthrough, Wyo takes Claudia's hand, and accepts the responsibility of being the girl's master. He offers a bittersweet smile, apologizing for being such a clumsy and in teacher. She offers him a gentle, encouraging smile, her expression filled with genuine warmth. Together they look up toward the exit, as she assures him his clumsiness is actually quite charming. Standing before the glowing capsule once more, they prepare to confront the sleeping girl's fate. The automaton remains perfectly still, her peaceful features reflecting the ancient magic that sustains her. Wyo looks at his students with newfound resolve, his confidence slowly returning. He leans over the pod and confesses he lied, stating there is still one vital task left unfinished. Observing the girl closely, he acknowledges that beneath her mechanical shell, she truly possesses a human heart. He takes her hand, reflecting on the sincere smile from her master that she, unfortunately, never received. Wyo greets the awakening automaton as Alice, offering her a morning filled with newfound light and genuine hope. He smiles warmly while gently holding her mechanical hand, inviting her to join them. Wyo suggests they leave the dark chamber and face the unknown future together. Alice looks up with wide, curious eyes, repeating her new name as her internal systems process the input. Wyo asks if she likes the name he chose, his expression soft and full of paternal kindness. Accepting the designation, she confirms she will update her internal registry to Alice. As they move to depart, Alice points to the professor and asks if he is her new master, prompting a flustered confirmation. Claudia clings to his arm and proudly introduces him as Wyo-sensei, dedicated Magic Academy teacher. The automaton struggles with the pronunciation, her robotic voice echoing through the chamber. System notifications appear, as Alice officially approves Wyo as her new master. Despite his humble protests back at the academy, the director reacts with absolute shock to the discovery. A detailed summary explains how Wyo accidentally found both the legendary grimoire and the guardian automaton. Limnoha erupts in jealous rage. While Wyo calmly confirms the unbelievable events, the arrogant elf claims he knew of the artifacts all along, posting about his superior rank. Arya leans forward with intense determination, asking the principal to approve the grimoire as their new research subject. Rio accepts the challenge with a weary smile, promising to do whatever it takes to protect his students. Proudly observing his unique group, the professor acknowledges that all three of his new charges are truly exceptional. Claudia and Arya share a moment of mutual satisfaction. Happy their plan to help Sensei is working, Alice firmly reminds them she is not a student, causing the others to react with slight embarrassment. The director accepts the faction request and designates the haunted ghost tower as their new official residence. Wyo and the girls stand dejectedly outside the office. Claudia complains about living with ghosts, but Arya insists they are actually quite friendly. She explains. She spent time chatting with the spirit while the others were trapped. She laughs recalling her conversation. While Alice and Wayo listen with confusion, Arya reveals Limnoha has already taken custody of the ghosts they encountered. Alice remains silent, her robotic gaze fixed forward. As the group prepares for their next task, Wayo suggests the girls help Alice find more appropriate clothing for her new life. While Claudia smiles, Arya notes Alice's current attire is far too awkward for public school. Wayo heads off to handle paperwork for tower repairs, leaving the girls to bond. Although Alice prefers to stay with her master, the girls lead her away for a secret talk. Alice calls out to Wayo, acknowledging her new master as he walks down the stone corridor. With a gentle wave, he bids them farewell and promises to see everyone later. The three girls walk together, hand in hand, beginning their new journey as friends. Crumbling Ghost Tower stands as a testament to the school's long, mysterious history. Wayo discusses renovation plans with dwarven builders. While the girls continue their shopping trip, Alice watches the reconstruction efforts, her systems processing the changes to her home. Construction continues. As the girls prepare a surprise within the old tower walls, Alice returns to her master wearing a detailed maid outfit, claiming it's the most suitable attire. Local workers gossip about the strange group, while Alice explains her choice of serving attire. Claudia excitedly asks Sensei if Alice looks adorable. Rio smiles warmly, agreeing her new appearance is truly adorable. Alice remains expressionless. While strange, mechanical sensations begin stirring within her internal systems. Claudia playfully pokes Alice's nose, while the automaton insists she lacks the capacity to blush. Later at the Ghost Tower, Wayo warns the group to keep a safe distance from the dangerous construction. Despite the risks, Alice steps forward and offers her assistance with the difficult restoration, demonstrating their immense physical strength. The girls effortlessly lift massive wooden beams. Arya turns to her teacher with a confident look, asking if he can truly count on them. A nearby pulley mechanism creaks and groans under the intense strain. Suddenly Alice's hand clicks open mechanically. As she detects the imminent threat of falling debris, she vows to protect her master by eliminating any potential danger. Activating her advanced combat systems, a targeting reticle appears within her glowing analytical eyes. High above, the pulley system snaps violently, sending a shower of heavy stone blocks plummeting down. Without hesitation, Alice fires a concentrated, magical blast from her hand to incinerate the falling rubble. Wayo and the builders watch in total speechless horror, as the powerful explosion echoes through the air. With the threat neutralized, Alice calmly declares the elimination of danger complete. Wisps of smoke rise from her outstretched palm, while the surrounding area falls into eerie silence. Her mechanical hand retracts with a sharp, metallic click as she reassesses the site's safety. Moving toward her master, Alice gently cups Wayo's face between her cold metallic hands. She asks if he is unharmed, while a jealous Claudia fumes silently in the background. Wayo gazes back at the automaton, feeling a strange sense of connection to his new protector. Alice gazes ahead with a neutral expression, her internal systems quietly processing the recent, life-altering events. Wayo confirms his commitment to the repairs, while Alice expresses her relief that the professor is safe.